I've been alive for almost 31 years, which is abhorrent to say out loud. I try to avoid saying that as much as I can, but I almost didn't make it past 10. Hell, I almost didn't make it past 15. There are a few times in my life where I almost died. Some of them comical, I guess, depends on what your sense of humor is, and others a bit more traumatic. I'm going to be going into detail of some of these, and I'm sure I've almost had a few more times, some knowing, some without knowing, most probably without knowing. But for today's episode, I'm going to be going into a few of these that I remember, and in about as much detail as I can recall generally, because I haven't thought about a lot of these things for a long time. Now, I will say again, when I try to mention ages, I'm just going to give a basic idea of what I think I might have been get like offer me within 2 or 3 years of leeway to whatever I say, because God knows I can't remember much. Now, this is in no particular order, but the first that I remember when I was writing out this list was one time I was at a friend's birthday party and I almost drowned at the beach. I've never been a big fan of water in general. Sure, I enjoy swimming from time to time, Sure, I enjoy swimming, every once in a while, but I never really feel the need. I feel I could go swimming once a year and be totally content for the rest of the year. And even if I had my own personal private pool, I still probably wouldn't use it that often. I'd probably use it to essentially treat it like a bath where I sit in the water for a few minutes, maybe 20 minutes, watch a YouTube video on the side, and then get out. But when I was young, I want to say I was probably around 7, maybe a little younger, maybe a little older. I don't know. But I was at a friend's birthday party and it was on the beach. I don't know where. I don't know what beach. Maybe it was the ocean. I don't remember. But we were swimming on the shoreline, on the sanded shoreline, and I was sticking to the shallows mostly. I wasn't a great swimmer. I did go to a swimming school when I was younger just to teach me the basics. It was Switzer's, if I recall. And so I knew how to stay afloat a little bit. I knew how to swim. I could keep myself going a little bit, but either way, I was in the cold water and I was sitting there kind of waiting in waist to chest high deep water. And then the mom or dad, whoever was there, yelled for all the kids to come back in. We are gonna I don't know, get ready to leave or do presents or eat food or something like that. And they all started, hoarding back to the beach. And I was sitting there for a few more minutes. I'm just hanging out, okay, I'll go there in just a second. I'm enjoying myself. And so I step out a little bit further and a little bit further. And there wasn't really many people in the water at this time. I think we were there later in the day or just on a quiet day for just the party, for just the kids, so we all didn't get lost in the masses of an anonymous crowd. And I started walking out just a little bit further, enjoying myself. And then all of a sudden I was underwater. And I do remember this moment where I was just walking, and the next step I took, a committed step, it was a full, heavy in the water, against the wave kind of step. Because I do remember this is how it happened, that the waves were kind of coming in. So it must have been the ocean because the waves were coming in a little bit and kind of pushing and pulling, the ebb and the flow. And I took a big step, and I think I got caught in an ebb wave. I think the ebb is the recede. I don't know. I got caught in a slight receding pull of the water, and that pulled me off a little dip. There was a fall off that I didn't know was there. It's it went from, say, 3.5 to 4 feet deep to 20 feet deep in that one step. And I did not know. I don't think anyone could have known it, or if there were markers, if there was anything like that, I certainly didn't see. And the water pulled my step and dragged me down, and I was just under the water. And I remember being suddenly so surprised, I started flailing my arms, and I didn't. And if it was ocean water, I don't know. I don't know how I didn't get myself right back to the top. I was so confused. I didn't have time to take a breath. I was disoriented, and I think it did probably. I think it pulled me out a few feet away from where I had stepped off, and I was just flailing. And I remember I sank down enough to where my hand actually hit the bank where I was just standing, the little sand edge, and I touched it, and I realized, okay, where I am. And in that brief moment, I don't know if I was able to use that to pull myself up, or I just happened to kick correctly enough or flail myself in just a way, or if the water came back and pushed itself up onto shore and helped me get over that lump again. But either way, however it happened, I was pulled down and I was pushed back up and I popped my head up and I was underwater for maybe 5 to 10 seconds. I wasn't underwater for very long, but nobody knew I was underwater. No, everyone had pulled off the beach. I was by myself in the water. So if I had gotten pulled down any deeper or gotten pulled out further and didn't get myself up, I was alone and nobody knew I was even not with a crowd. So there was a very real chance that I could have just drowned right there and they wouldn't have even known. But I get myself up over the I breach the surface and I'm coughing, I'm spitting, I'm looking around like panicked and realizing, oh my god, I'm alive. Oh my god, that was terrifying. What the hell? So I get myself back on the beach and I didn't even tell anybody. I just rejoined the group and they just kind of, I don't know. I assumed they all looked at me and I was haggard or whatever, but I just rejoined the group. Like, well, I almost just drowned. That was crazy. Um, that maybe that instilled part of my fear of thalassophobia, but I don't think so. I think that just comes from like a dread I get. Two times. Here's another story, and this happened twice, so I can't be trusted around meat. At my nana's house, either I think we were just kind of staying the night or whatever have you. We got Chinese food, and my favorite food growing up was beef teriyaki, like the beef teriyaki on a stick that you'd get from a Chinese restaurant. My God, it's still one of my favorite foods of all time to this day. I absolutely love it. And we got some, and I don't know. I was probably 8 or 9. I was chewing the shit out of this teriyaki, but I I just didn't chew it enough, or I swallowed too big of a piece, and I went to go swallow, and I started choking. I was full on choking, and I remember panicked running out to my nan and just like, like referencing to my throat and just like trying to cough and whatever. And she like freaked out and she like smacked me on the chest. She flipped me around. She gave me the Heimlich, and she got it out pretty easily. But then this is where it's like, oh, that generation of adults were kind of just shitty because she picked it up off the floor, she washed it off, and she made me finish eating it. I remember that. I remember chewing and I remember having to eat an already chewed glob of meat that just got rinsed off the sink that literally almost just killed me. And I think it was a lesson of like, this is what you didn't chew. You need to chew it further. So if you need to get that down again as like a learned lesson or whatever have you, or something like that. Or she was just mad because she was frazzled and I almost died and she needed to punish or something. My nana was not a punishing person. Like she kind of was, but she was also the sweetest lady in the world. But she had a temper. They all did. And then this happened again. I a different time, probably within, I think it was within the same couple months or within the same year, I started choking on beef teriyaki again, and she saved me again, and she was, I don't know, man, I can't be trusted. So to this day, I am absolutely, one of my biggest fears is choking to death, because like I don't live with people that could probably save me from choking. Like I don't trust, not that I don't trust them, but I don't think we're all panicky, anxious people, and we all choke under pressure, no pun intended. So I don't think Dylan or Nin could actively save me from choking if I were. I think I could probably save them. I don't want to test it out, but it's a scary thought, and it's especially a scary thought thinking of how much I and other people eat while driving. To start choking while driving is a horrendous fear of mine. I hate that. So yeah, I almost choked to death twice, very in a close proximity of each other. Now, another time, I talked about this on a podcast with my friend Jake. I don't remember what the name of the podcast was. I think it might have been episode 8 or something like that of the Nihility podcast. But one time I was driving up around a blind hill corner. Actually, maybe I talked about it during this because I know I talked about a time with him and I spinning out in the car and hitting a hill. But anyway, I was driving up a blind hill in a blizzard, going to meet my friends to go to a concert of theirs. Their band was performing, and it was me and my friend Amy driving up this hill, and and as I was cresting this blind hill in the winter, I lost control of my car. I didn't think I was going that fast, but I just happened to hit ice or a slush or something, and my car literally spun in a full 360 degrees over a blind hill. So if there was a car coming over that hill, I would have absolutely gotten T-boned or like smashed into by that car and maybe not died, but definitely there was a risk of death right there. That was one of the scarier instances of a car quote unquote accident. Like I did end up hitting the embankment, but my car was fine. Everyone was fine. It was, her and I were good, but Yeah, that was not a great time. That was scary. Uh, Another time I almost died was actually, two times I almost died by coy dogs. Well, coyotes, sort of. They're pretty similar to each other. But coy dogs, I remember one time I was probably 15 or 16, and I, for some reason, was needing to walk home from work. And I live about 2.5 miles from work, I think. And where I live in New Hampshire, it's very hilly and it's very woodsy around me. You know, it's surrounded by woods all the time. I walk out to my car and there could be a bear sitting there. There could be a bobcat. I have security camera footage of just bobcats walking up to my front door. So like, there's animals, right? And back then, I obviously didn't have a gun, and I started just walking home one day. I had to. I don't think my parents could pick me up, or they were going to pick me up, and I was too stubborn or too much of in a bad mood. So I was like, I'm just going to start walking. And I've definitely done that before, where I started walking until my mom found me. And I got like about a mile and a half, maybe even more. I think it's about 2.5. It could be 3 miles. But I got most of the way home before she pulled up and picked me up. But this time I made it almost all the way home. Now, there's this section before where I used to live where you come across, you are away from every kind of residential area, and there's two fields on either side of you. And on each of the fields is just like an open space. You're surrounded by woods, and it's fully dark. There's no outside lights. There's no street lights. And I'm walking down this, and I'm listening to like Avenged Sevenfold in one earbud or something, and I get this like weird feeling. I hear something or I see something or whatever, and it's almost dark. It's like twilight evening kind of thing. It's like a that blue gray contrast is all blown out kind of darkness that's encroaching, and I'm looking around and I realize that there's coy dogs on the side of the road. There's a couple of them, and they're yipping a little bit, and they're closing a little bit to me. And I have probably like 1,000 feet before I get to my house, if not more. I had a good like I had a good dash to get to my house up a hill on a dirt road surrounded by woods, and I'm kind of walking faster, and they're like getting a little bit closer. And I think there was only like two or three, maybe. So I think if there were more, they would have been more confident in actually getting me. But I unplugged my music and I put my headphones in my pocket, and I had like a backpack on or something. And I know you probably shouldn't have, but I just started sprinting at full speed. I just ripped, I just fully fucking peeled ass as fast as I could, and I heard them yip and run a little bit in the woods. And as I got to the road, I think maybe at this time we still had our dog. Or maybe we might have had our dog or something, but I don't know what it was. But as we got closer to the house, as I got closer to the house, something deterred them. I think the outside lights being on or something like that deterred them, and they eventually did like break away from me, and I was able to make it into the house. So I got chased by coy dogs trying to get home one time. Another time has to do with coy dogs was I actually got surrounded by coy dogs at one point in the middle of the woods, and I've told this story before. I don't know where, I don't know when, but I haven't told this in a while. But it was me, my friend Justin, and my friend Matt. We're all hanging out in the porch at my parents' house, where it was, it's the kind of porch where it's surrounded by screen windows, and they're all open. It's the middle of summer, and we're watching TV or something. We're playing a game or something like that on the porch, and we hear the bear at the dumpster. We hear the dumpster lid slap open, and we know that the bear's down there at the far end of the driveway, like pretty far away from the house. So we hear that and we're like, "Oh shit, the bear's down there. Let's go see. Let's go check him out." So we're like, "Oh fuck, okay." So I I grab a collectible like knight sword I have, like a long sword. I grab that as a weapon. I think Justin grabs a hatchet, and then we stop in the basement, and Matt grabs like a small wood axe, and just to make ourselves feel safe or whatever. And we go down to the end of the driveway, and we're kind of looking at the dumpster. We don't see him, and then I'm kind of speeding through this a little bit. There's a lot more details, but then the bear pops his head out of the dumpster as we get closer, scares the shit out of us, makes like a ruffing noise, jumps out of the dumpster, and darts across the road into the woods. And before we can even sit there and go, "Well, that was cool," the bear was right there. Justin is in a full sprint into the woods after the bear, yelling like, "Come here, motherfucker," or something like that. He's a psychopath, by the way. I love Justin to death, but he is an absolute psychopath. Um, I have a lot of stories I could tell about him. So he sprints into the woods, and me and Matt look at each other, dumbfounded for a second, and realize, well, we have to go after him. We can't just leave him out there. So we sprint in after him, and we're 30, 40 feet behind him, but he is running fast. He's chasing the bear. He wants to see the bear up close. And we're getting in there, and we get, a good 100, feet into the woods, at the point where, like, the outside lights of the house is just kind of like a dot. Not necessarily a dot, but like it's a hope. It's a jump, skip, and a hop away. It's in the distance, and me and Matt kind of stop for a second because we realize we're both like, oh fuck, wait, and we stand there, and Justin's gone, the bear's gone, and we look around, and there are like 5 or 6 coy dogs, or maybe 5 or 6. There are a handful of coy dogs or coyotes surrounded us. We just see eyes in the dark. We're like, are you fucking kidding? I'm not making this up, dude. We chased a bear and got surrounded by coy dogs. Me and Matt are sitting there, literally like a movie, almost back to back, holding a sword and a fucking firewood axe. And we're just looking at these coy dogs like, oh no. Oh, this is bad. And it's like a quiet stalemate for a second where we're trying to figure out what the hell to do and try not to panic. And then we hear, we hear something hit the ground hard, and literally all the coyotes or coy dogs, whatever the hell they were, look in the direction that the noise came from, and we do too. It was seriously like out of a movie. And then out from the woods sprints Justin with the axe in hand, and he literally sprints at us with panic in his eyes, jumps over the coy dogs, ends up kicking one in the head as he jumped or as he landed, whatever. He kicked one in the head. We heard it yelp, and then he's like, run! So he yells for us to run, and we just immediately, match pace, and we chase him, and we get to the edge of the woods, and as we're running to the house, trying not to like impale ourselves in our weapons, I look behind over my shoulder, and we can see the coy dogs at the edge of the woods looking at us like, next time, motherfucker, kind of thing. And when we get inside, we all safe and sound. We realize, Justin tells us that he chased the bear up a tree, and the bear slipped and fell and landed in front of him, so it freaked him out, obviously. So that's what the thump was, the bear landing on its ass out of a tree. And yeah, we ran. He's like, I kicked that motherfucking dog in the head. It was fucking crazy. It was a whole thing, dude. Yeah, that was a wild night. Uh, I'm sure there are plenty of times that I could think of that I almost died. There is one where I'm not going to get into the details of it because it is obviously a traumatic experience for me. I have had a gun to my head at one point, so obviously any swift motion would have killed me. I had a gun to my forehead, a 357 Magnum. So I'm not going to get into that one, obviously, but yeah, that's a handful of times I almost died, most of which were before I was 15. So since then, haven't had a whole lot of near-death experiences that I can vividly recall. But yeah, I think that'll about do it. Thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed, share this somewhere, leave a like. And don't forget to go to vengeancebooks.com to check out my book series, and also head on over to, if you want to hear more personal stories of mine where I talk about ghosts and other spooky occurrences in my life, check out the Archive of the Unexplainable, my podcast and YouTube channel where I talk about this kind of stuff. I also just did a ghost hunt over there, so I think you'd enjoy that. Links will be in whatever description this is posted on, so thank you again for watching. Bye-bye.